What is up everyone, and welcome to an awesome little video. Today we're going to take a look at this lovely little mini ITX motherboard. I've owned this for quite some time now. I believe Christian donated it to me, and in fact I think it was Christian, in maybe his first donation. And I haven't actually delved into it or powered it up, and I do have a specific task I want to use this for. Now before you guys go, trying to think up what I'm going to use it for, I know I've been talking about servers and mini ITX and stuff for a little bit now, but this will not be used as anything to do with my server setup, just to let you guys know before you get excited. But still, I want to try it out, I want to power it up, I want to see what it does. And in this video we're going to take a look at the board. I'm no expert on it, in fact I don't know much about it at all, but we're still going to take a look at it, we're going to power it up and see what it does. So this is a mini ITX motherboard. I was going to say a little mini ITX motherboard, but it's just regular mini ITX. It just seems so small to me. This is the only one that I've ever owned. This board is from 2003, so it's 12 years old. It's the VIA EPIR mini ITX, revision B this one is. It has a VIA C3 CPU. I'm reading these off notes on my screen, by the way, guys. I've never heard of any of this stuff. A VIA C3. It is an x86 CPU. It runs at 1 GHz, so I assume that it can run Windows. This is pre my sort of knowledge base of CPUs and whatnot. And the chipset is an Apollo CLE266. They are all the notes that I have. If that means anything to anyone, then that is fascinating, but it means nothing to me, and I've purely got this for experimentation processes. So, in it at the moment, we have some PC 2700, 333 megahertz RAM. It's a 512 megabyte stick. Now, I assume this works in this motherboard, but a 512 megabyte stick is quite big for 2003, especially for something sort of low end like this. I actually put this in here. I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but I guess we'll soon find out. This was a stick of RAM that I had lying around that actually fit in the physical slot. I didn't look up compatibility or anything, but as the board itself goes, we've got one single RAM slot here, as you guys can see. This, believe it or not, is the chipset heatsink here, and this is the CPU heatsink, so it does have a fan on the CPU heatsink. Over here we have two IDE channels, as you can see, probably one for hard drives and one for optical drives, which is basically the standard, or I assume you could put hard drives on both of them or whatever. Again, not an expert with this kind of age of technology. I'm very good with Power Macs and stuff, but in terms of PCs, my sort of expertise, if you can even call it that, starts with sort of the first revision of SATA, and I work my way up from there. So this is quite a lot older than the stuff I normally play with. But to some of you, I know this isn't very old at all. Some of you play around with sort of mid-90s machines and even like early 90s and late 80s PCs, which is a totally different kettle of fish altogether. Something that I may get into in the channel as time progresses, but I'm not too sure. Here we have the 20-pin connector, of course 20-pin, not 24. Here's a floppy drive connector, I know that much. Over here we have a standard PCI slot. This is for your expansion cards and whatnot, but this does indeed have built-in graphics, as you guys can probably see from the back panel here. It has a VGA connector, as well as S-video and composite video, which is very, very cool. So I don't know if this was originally intended for a very sort of early concept home theater PC. I don't know when home theater PCs became a big deal. But 2003, you never know. If someone had a bit of spare cash, then maybe it was a thing back then, who knows. We've got serial and parallel ports, of course, standard audio, 2 USB ports, gigabit Ethernet, or probably 10100 Ethernet, and 2 PS2 ports for keyboard and mouse, of course. So that is pretty much it in terms of the board. Again, I know nothing about it, and I don't even know if this stick of RAM is going to work in it at all. I'm very intrigued, but I'm going to repeat myself here. I am not going to use this for any kind of server build or whatever. It's far too old for me to begin to understand and implement. Maybe it would be useful for something, but I do have something in mind. If I can get to grips with what this hardware actually is, then I do have something in mind in terms of a use for this little board. It's going to be a nice build, and maybe it won't happen, but I really hope it does. I owe the build to someone. Let's just put it like that, as a prize. So, there is the board, and today what we're going to do is whip out a power supply and give it a test. So of course we've got the board, but to power it up we need a power supply, and here I have a power supply. This is your basic 20 pin power supply. It's called Carl, as you guys can see. Carl is written on there. Can't remember where this PSU came from, if I'm totally honest. I also have, just for a laugh, even though I don't think there's an operating system on it, I have this Maxter 60GB IDE hard drive. I've got a lot of IDE hard drives and I've recently got rid of quite a few, but I've still got a good collection. I believe out of all of them, this one should have Windows 2000 on it. I can't quite correctly remember, but it should. Whether it'll boot into it or not is another question, and it really probably won't, but I do have that just in case, and I'll connect the drive to the board. Over here we have a black IDE cable ripped straight from an MDD, I believe, because it's black. I actually do have a shortage of standard IDE cables. I've really been clearing out my PC stuff, and it's actually a miracle that I still have this stuff lying around. I wanted to keep the board because I don't own any mini ITX boards. In terms of a keyboard to test this thing with, I've got my trusty HP PS2 keyboard, which is actually a really nice feeling keyboard to type on, believe it or not. It kind of feels mechanical and sounds mechanical. I'm not sure if it is. Unfortunately, I don't have a PS2 mouse, so I've got this very yellowed, crappy, early USB mouse with a short cable on it. Not sure where I got this either, but I've recently sold one PS2 mouse and given away another. So yeah, I do have a shortage of stuff, but I will be keeping this keyboard because it's very handy for testing purposes. The mouse probably won't be needed because there probably isn't an OS on there, and even if there is, it probably won't boot into it. I just need the keyboard to travel around the BIOS. And of course, I've got my trusty, if I can just lift it and show it in the frame, I've got my trusty Hans-G monitor that I use for all of my testing. So what I'm quickly going to do is plug all of this stuff in. I need to steal a VGA cable from somewhere. I've also got a shortage of VGA cables. I've really been clearing out too much, guys, and I need to replenish stock on quite a few things. It's just hard to know what to clear out and what not to clear out. So bear with me 1 second while I set all this up. So guys, here I have the little system all hooked up. We've got power supply, hard drive, motherboard, keyboard, mouse, monitor, etc, etc. Let's try and power her up. So we'll turn the power supply on, and then we will power the system on. If I can get my screwdriver in there. And there we have it. Right, I wasn't expecting anything quite this loud, but the hard drive has spun up. There we are. VIA mainboard. Press F1 to continue. Typical. Okay, so that's not booting. That's okay. There's nothing on this drive. That doesn't make a difference, guys. What I may do is change the drive in a second and locate that IDE drive that does have something on it. Let's try and reset the system. Delete to enter BIOS. It would help if I looked at the screen while actually doing something. Okay, so here we are in a standard BIOS, and by the looks of things, yes indeed, guys, yes indeed. Okay, the date is set back to 2003. That's okay. By the looks of things. Oh, okay, it's got boot from USB enabled. That's cool. So it actually does that. That's pretty nifty. We've actually got all of the options that you'd ever want in here, guys. This is quite impressive, actually. PCI slot or AGP. So the integrated graphics is AGP, of course. And that actually looks like, that setting makes it look like whoever was using this previously was using a video card. So there's all sorts of cool things here, actually. 31 degrees on the CPU. The little CPU fan is going. Yeah, so interesting BIOS, guys. Absolutely everything you'd ever want. So this board is pretty standard apart from the name and manufacturer. Not sure if these guys are still around. There we go, successfully powered off using the screwdriver. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just change the drive, guys, because I swear I do have a little IDE drive with an install on it. I want it to at least attempt to boot into Windows. I think that would be really cool. So guys, I've got one of these sort of slimline Maxters connected because I know one of these should have an OS on it. At least one, anyway. So we will wait and see. This one is, I believe, a 40 gigabyte. I think, can't actually see on the side there. But most of the drives that I've got to try are Maxters, and I'm getting them all mixed up, so we will soon see. Ah, look at that, brilliant. Starting Windows, let's see what it does. Could be XP, could just be XP on here. Alright guys, so we've been stuck here for a while. I don't think it's going to do anything. I think it's just better to try another drive. I know some of the drives I gave away definitely had a Windows install on them. So let's try a different drive. I do have another Maxter drive, but this one has an Apple logo on it, so I don't think it's going to do anything. I do actually need to put a jumper on it quickly, but I think this one has come from a Mac of some kind. So just pulling the jumper out and checking what we've got. Master. Here we go. I don't know why I have so many of these Maxter drives, guys. They've just built up over time. Let's plug that in there. Plug that in there, if I can get it round the right way. There we go. Stick that drive there. Power on the PSU. Power on the system. Now I know one of these old IDE drives had an install of XP with a load of games on it from my a PC that I played around with like 5 years ago, but I believe I've given that drive away, or it could be sitting upstairs. I really don't know. Yeah, nothing on this one at all. This one is probably formatted for Mac. No, definitely nothing on there. I do have one more drive I can try, I believe, guys. I'm just trying one more drive. Don't know if you guys can hear that, but of course we have the dreaded ticking of doom, which actually sounds quite soothing. There we go. Oh, no, nearly. Let's see if sitting flat helps it. Nope, it's not a happy bunny. Ticking like a total beast. But anyway, that has been a very interesting experiment. I've also now come to realise that this hard drive is broken, and the jumper is indeed correct. But this drive is no more. But my collection of Maxter drives is incredible, actually. I've got 6 with me right here. Well, actually 5, but I know of one more, oh no, 2 more that I've got, but they're definitely formatted for Mac because they came in my NDD. So this has been a little test of this mini ITX board, guys. I know we couldn't get Windows booted or anything like that, but it doesn't really matter, it doesn't make a difference. Because at the moment, I'm definitely focused on, you know, something else. I do have plans for this little system. Really glad it recognises 512 megabytes of RAM. I think that's pretty cool for its age. I guess 512 in 2003 wasn't loads and loads, but still, you know, not a bad amount at all. So this would actually make a really nice, I can't even get it out, I'll do it in a second. This would make a really nice little mini ITX Windows 98 build, if that's even possible. So what I'm going to do is try and get my hands on a copy of Windows 98 SE and make a little Windows 98 mini ITX box out of this, and I do have a further plan after that. But yeah, if I can look for an old beige mini ITX case, if they exist, or maybe mod something up, that would be really cool. Make a really small beige Windows 98 computer. That would be really cool. I also have the back I/O shield for this, which is a really nice plus. So I've actually really enjoyed fiddling around with this, guys. At the moment, I don't have any more time to do anything with it. I was hoping that one of those drives had a usable Windows install. I may have one upstairs, so you may see one running on it in the future, but what we'll probably do is just take one of the drives that still works, like this one for instance, that probably still works, and use it to install Windows 98 on it. Or maybe actually take one of my old Western Digitals or something that may be slightly more reliable from the get-go. So this has been a very interesting look at this little mini ITX board. It's my first look at mini ITX on the channel, so this is a memorable day. Hopefully there is much more mini ITX stuff to come, because it is quite quite a cool little form factor in my opinion. Stuff is very small, but you can cram a lot onto this board. And I also like the way that they line up with standard I/O shields. I think it's very clever and pretty cool. You know, cramming these two IDE channels on it, for instance, with this PCI slot and everything. I just find it all pretty damn cool. But anyway, I am new to it, so obviously it's going to amaze me a little more to begin with. So, hope you've enjoyed the look at this pretty bizarre but pretty cool x86 based mini ITX all-in-one CPU motherboard thing. I hope you can join me next time. There will be future videos on this when I decide what to do and maybe locate some other parts to put a system together. If anyone has any recommendations, then please let me know. And of course, as always, share your knowledge in the comments. That would be really great. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all in tomorrow's video.